Good evening guys, it's Tommy at Northern Ear Reactions. How are you? I hope you're all okay. Tonight I have a very different kind of video for you, and this is a special Patreon request from Prog Rock Fan 2000. And instead of asking me to listen to a song, he's asked me to listen to an entire album and let you guys know what I thought of the album as a whole. So this is my very first album review on the Northern Ear channel. Now, the album that he's asked me to listen to is an album called I Am Anonymous, and it's by the band Headspace. And Headspace are a prog metal band, and I think the album's been out for about 7 or 8 years. So, very different kind of video, but it'd be interesting to kind of see how the format changes from a normal type of video, what the appetite is like for you guys to come and watch it on the channel. Might give me a bit of a good indication as to whether this is something that I want to do. So, I'm going to welcome any feedback about anything that you've seen tonight, then please make sure that you let me know in the comments section. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put chapters in along the bottom of the video for each song, so if you want to follow along and skip to the next song, then that's fine. And I don't know whether you want to get another YouTube window out and bring up the album yourself and, I don't know, listen to the song as I'm talking about it, then that's absolutely fine. But just to make it easier, if you do decide to follow along, I'm going to try and stick some chapters in. So yeah, the album is 8 tracks long. It was a little over 1 hour and 10 minutes in length, and I'm just going to talk about each song. What I've done, just for a bit of clarity, is I've made some notes this morning when I had a listen. I've made some observations, and that just helps me visualise, so occasionally I might glance over to the notes that I've made. So yeah, let's just get into it. This is Headspace, I Am Anonymous album review. Let's go. Right, so kicking off with the very first track, which was called Stalled Armageddon. It kicked off really interesting, quite a dark sound. And then when the main riff kicked in, you could tell that there was Dream Theater-y vibes about it. You know, there was lots of fast technical guitars, lots of change-ups, and what I really liked about that song is that it was building up really nicely. There was parts where I was thinking, this is fantastic, I can't wait to listen to the rest of this album, rest of the song, and it built up for about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden, changed, switched up, the whole song just completely changed. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my god, such a wasted opportunity, because I felt like they could have done so much more with the song. They could have played on that riff, they could have added extra layers to it, they could have really gone to town with it, and they just completely changed it. And slowly, for the rest of the song, the tension started to build back up, but for me it never really reached the heights of the original part of the song. And I got to the end of the song thinking that was a bit of an anticlimax, that was a bit of a disappointment. It had lots and lots of promise, but it just felt like that change just killed the whole song. But I did get a good introduction to the band, to the vocal sound, to the overall sound of the guitars, and it kind of gave me a sense of what I was letting myself in for the rest of the album. So it was a good introduction to the album, good introduction to the band, but I was just a little bit disappointed by the song itself. So that was Stalled Armageddon. Moving on to track 2, we have a song called Fall of America, which was slightly longer than the first track, and this set the tone for me. This was a great song. This was very high energy, quite raw, quite gritty. It started off though quite bright, you know, the nice little piano intro. It almost had Walking in Memphis vibes, and if you take a listen to the song, you'll see what I mean. And then after that kind of intro, the guitars came in. It gave, there was a really, like I said, a really gritty, raw sound, and the song never really went anywhere after that. But the song was so hard hitting in the first place, I don't feel like it needed to go anywhere. The only slight change in the sound of the song was towards the end, where the song started to die down a little bit, and I think that was to allow song 3 to come into the album quite nicely. And song 3 was called Soldier. Now song 3 was probably my favourite song throughout the whole album. It had a real calm ballad feel almost, very piano heavy, and the words in this song was talking about the impact of war and the impact of war that it has on the soldier. It talked about the impact of war on other people, and had topics in there such as isolation and reflection on actions and things like that. It was quite a thought-provoking, beautiful written song, actually. Possibly my favourite song on the album. They had this kind of nice bell that just rang every now and then. That was a little bit like, like you've got in Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden, or you've got in Division Bell by Pink Floyd. That kind of just a bell that goes on in the background but also forms part of the rhythm for the song, and it was quite a nice touch. It reminded me of death. It was clear that the song had a dark meaning just from the instruments, which is what I quite liked. So yeah, the song never really went anywhere, but this was the real lull in the album. This was the breakdown of the album, if you like. Very, very nice song. So I would recommend, if there's any song to listen to, it would be song 2 and song 3, Fall of America and Soldier on this album. So that was Soldier, quite a calm, reflective song, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the album, and the rest of the album started to pick up from song 3. Song 4 was Die With A Bullet, and Die With A Bullet was, from an energy point of view, an upgrade. However, it was possibly the least memorable song of the album. I didn't make any observations about that song really. I just noted that it was kind of a nothing song. It felt a bit like a filler to me. Like, it didn't really have much about it. There was 2 comments that I did make about it actually. Synth spoiled the riff. So there was a fantastic riff through the song. It's a good point. There was a really great riff, but it was too heavy on the synths. There was a massive synth solo, and at times I just felt like it was a bit of overkill. It didn't need it. It spoilt it a little bit, and they could have just played on the raw nature of the song a little bit more, I felt. And the other comment that I made was that I didn't feel like the vocals matched the sound of the song. The song was quite edgy, quite gritty again, but the vocalist has just got his tone of voice. It was quite high pitched. It's quite thin at times, and I felt like the song deserved a bit more of a growly raspiness to the voice, and obviously he can't do that. And I don't know whether the song was written by the vocalist or whether it was written by other musicians, but I don't feel like the voice matched the tone of the song. So that was my main feeling about the song. Other than that, there was no real notes made because, like I said before, it was the least memorable song. I turned off for a little bit mentally because there was just too much of nothing going on, essentially. Song 5 was another increase in tempo, in energy, and this was called In Hell's Name. Now, what I really liked about this song was it kicked off with an organ sound that sounded like you was at a funeral. And this is where the album started to make sense a little bit for me. There'd definitely been a military theme so far through the album, and this was the first time where I thought, oh, actually, something's happened here. The album is starting to tell a story, and it made sense about all the other songs as well. We're talking about a soldier, the impact that it's having, being in a war, and then suddenly we're in a funeral, and I'm thinking, oh, the soldiers died then, or something like that. The song was a gradual increase of tension, of pain, of anger. There was one really nice breakdown towards the middle of the song that introduced acoustic guitar, I think, for the first time in the album, and there was also, it sounded like a sitar as well, so that kind of variety in instruments was a nice little change as well. But my favourite line of the whole album was, "Here lies the cause of all your pain." And it made me think really, because I started to switch on about what the message of the album was, and I was thinking to myself, oh, the soldiers died. The subject of the album is the soldier being in a war, being affected by the war, and then dying. But that line, "Here lies the cause of all your pain," didn't really make sense, because you wouldn't say that to the subject if the dead body was the subject. So it made me start to think, is the album about someone else? Is the album about a family member or a soldier friend? Maybe he's lost his mate in a war or something like that. But it made me think about, maybe this album is from the perspective of someone else and the impact of war on them rather than on the soldier itself. Which leads me into song 6, Daddy Fucking Loves You. And I drew a big thumbs down next to this song. And let me tell you why. I drew a big thumbs down because the first 2 or 3 minutes of the song was gonna be the biggest thumbs up of the album. It had everything. It had the makings of a fantastic song. It was gonna be my favourite song on the album. Basically, it was a very pretty, very bright message, essentially, from the soldier to what felt like, I got the impression it was a daughter rather than a son, but to the soldier's child, saying basically, I wish I could be with you, and it kind of got that vibe of, I wish I was there with you to hold you, and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, like, and as a father, it resonated with me. I really, really enjoyed the sound. I loved the lyrics. I think the lyrics were fantastic. And I thought to myself, such a beautiful song, such a fantastic song on this album. Really, really nice. And it started to make more sense to me that the song was about somebody else. This is now the soldier saying to the person that still is alive and has to deal with this death that, I'm still around. Remember me when I'm gone, that kind of thing. And I got really, really excited. And then again, halfway through the song, complete dropout into something completely different. And for me, it completely ruined the song. I've even wrote, spoilt by the change in that song. The whole song completely changed halfway through, and it didn't need to. It didn't need to. And the rest of the song was an up and down of mood. It was too hectic, it was too much. I felt like it didn't need it, and they essentially ruined a very, very good song. And then to make matters worse, the last 20 seconds of the song, they ended up going back to the sound that they created at the start. And it felt like the band were trying to say, look, we've come full circle with this song, but it just felt forced. It felt like they had, it didn't feel connected at all in any way. And I just thought to myself, when I heard it, I thought, well, why have you done it? If you've moved on, move on. Don't regurgitate it back up at the end of the song. It's done now. It's spent. You've spoilt it, kind of thing. So yeah, Daddy Fucking Loves You. Big thumbs down, because it was going to be a big thumbs up, and they ruined it. Song 7, Invasion. And I wrote one word for this song: bass. The whole song was driven by this amazing, almost like a purring bass line, and it was fantastic. It really got my juices flowing. I was thinking, yes, loving this song. Bass line's fantastic. Lyrics were good as well. The lyrics were questioning why war even happens in the first place. Talks about how people can change for the future, how they can stop these things from happening in the future, what they can do to move on from war, how they heal after war, and all that kind of thing. Loved that song. I don't really want to talk too much about it. What I will do is recommend you to go and listen to it. Invasion, it is track number 7 on the album, and like I said, one word: bass. Which leads me to the final track of the album, which was possibly the biggest eye-opener for the album, and it was called The Big Day. And what have I put here? The Big Day. So we started becoming exposed to lyrics like, this is the big day, the streets are lined with bodies, nobody is here as the plane goes down. And I might be completely off, but I just thought to myself, is this someone starting to take revenge for their family member's death, for their father's death? You know, we've had songs about the father dying, then we've had a message from the soldier to their child, asking them to remember them. Then we had a song that questions how people can move on and how people can heal from the war, and questioning why the war even happens in the first place. And then we've got quite a sinister song at the end that talks about dead bodies and planes going down, and it just made me wonder whether the whole song is about the son or the daughter of a fallen soldier healing by taking revenge on the people that made the war happen in the first place. I wondered whether it was becoming a bit of a terrorist attack in the end of the song. Now, I might be completely off. Even if I've misinterpreted it slightly, it still makes sense to me that that is a possibility. And it might just be a case that the song is ambiguous. It's got 2 or 3 different meanings and you can take from it whatever you want. But that is definitely the feeling that I got. And I thought that the message that the album provided as a whole was quite interesting. And you know me, guys, 3 things that prick my ears up with great music is interesting structure of music, which they did have in some of the songs. I think they spoiled a lot in some of the songs, and it was a little bit of overkill in some of the songs as well. Great voice, and I don't think his voice was good, but I don't think it was anything to write home about. But interesting lyrics, interesting message, and songs 6, 7 and 8 really started to get my thought process going for the song, and for that alone it definitely ticks that criteria. So yeah, that's the album. That takes us to the very end. Essentially a song about war and a story of what I think is someone taking revenge on the people that killed their father, or the people that instigated the war in the first place. As a whole, the album was a good album, good solid album. I enjoyed listening to it, but I felt like there were definitely some parts where I thought, too much, you've changed for changing's sake. There was a definite lull in the album in song 3, which was Soldier, and the rest of the album picked up from there, and it was a slow increase in tension, in tempo, in energy, in grit from song 3 onwards. So overall, I think a very good album. If I was to rate it out of 10, it'd definitely get a solid 6, 6.5, something like that. You know, it was a good solid album. Nothing to write home about, nothing to absolutely blow your socks off, but I would recommend it. Headspace, I Am Anonymous. If you haven't already, go ahead and listen to the album. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And guys, I hope you've enjoyed this format of video, but please, I would really appreciate your feedback in the comments section of what you thought about the song. And if there's any other albums that you want me to listen to, stick it down in the comments section and I'll put it to vote in the Discord. Remember guys, as always, if you like the video, then make sure you subscribe, click the notifications bell. If you want to get involved in the community, then head over to the Discord. If you want voting powers, you can head over to Patreon. I will stick links in all of that stuff in the description section. And thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Until tomorrow, I'll see you again soon. Have a good night, stay safe, and take care. Bye-bye.